Hello and welcome to Cupcake Addiction's Monsters Inc. Mike Wazowski Cake Pop tutorial, where I'll be showing you how to make this over-the-top Mike Wazowski Cake Pop. It's actually not as hard as he looks. Tools and equipment that we will be using for today's tutorial. I'm resting Mike today just in a polystyrene block. I've got some Lollypop sticks and some toothpicks or cocktail sticks. I've got my pre-rolled cake pop ball. Now, if you don't have a good recipe for getting your cake pops to this consistency, we've got one on our channel, so I will leave a link to that in the description box below. What you'll need to notice is this is about a regular sized cake pop ball that I would normally use. The one that we're using for Mike today is a bit bigger. It's about the size of a golf ball. So bearing in mind that one of these white chocolate melts is going to be his eye, you just want to hold it up. You can see there on that little one there, it's way too big to be Mike's eye. So you need to make your cake pop ball just a little bit bigger so that it doesn't look out of place being his eye. I've got some pale green candy melts or pale green tinted chocolate. Now I've used mostly white chocolate with a few green Wilton candy melts popped in and a touch of lemon yellow Wilton color paste just to bring it up to that kind of a little bit more of a leafy green or a minty green almost. I've got some melted dark chocolate. I've got some green taffy. You can also use green fondant for this, but I'm going to use green taffy and I've microwaved that just for about 10 seconds to soften it down so that it's easy to work with. A couple of mini marshmallows, some blue M&Ms. I've cut one of those in half. Make sure you do this beforehand as you'll tend to break a few, so you'll need to eat the leftovers. I've got some white chocolate melts or just some white candy melts, a serrated edge knife and a smooth edge knife. So let's get started. Now the first thing that we want to do is we want to make all of our decorations. So pop your cake pop balls off to the side. I will also mention with those cake pop balls, they have been refrigerated for about 15 to 20 minutes. So this large one here, it's really quite firm. You don't want to be able to push it out of shape particularly easily. You do want that to be quite nice and firm. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to take our eye. This blue M&M is going to be his little Monsters Inc. or Monsters University hat, those two sections. We've got our little marshmallow there. So let's start with the marshmallow. And what we're going to do is we're just going to cut that in half. And that's just going to give us our two horns. So what you want to do is sort of just take a bit of a nick out of the side of it there. Because you don't want it to look like an ear. You do want it to look like a horn. So off the side there and then so you should have a sticky side at the front and at the back, you just kind of want to cut the back off. Beautiful. So that will give us our two nice sort of sharp looking horns. Now take another one of those candy melts and you're going to cut it in half. And once you've cut it in half, this is going to be his teeth. So what you want to do is you kind of want to, I'll pull this over so that I'm not making too much of a mess, but you just want to shave out the inside. Try and do this pretty quickly because your hands will actually start to melt that candy melt or that piece of white chocolate. And you'll see there I'm just shaving almost a bit of a smile looking shape into it. So it shaves quite easily. It shouldn't be too difficult. But once again, do have spares just in case you knock a little corner off. All right, so there's our little, kind of a little half moon. Now you want to take your knife again and we might use a serrated edge one for this one. We're going to just nick in some little teeth. So do the teeth last because you will have actually softened that edge as you've been scraping in that side as your hands have been holding it. So you can see that I'm really just taking little chunks out of it. Once you're finished, put it down and leave it because that's actually going to need to firm up a little bit. It will have started to just start to soften in your hands. Now we want to take some of that taffy and do just clean up your workspace a little bit there. You don't want to be getting white chocolate through all of your taffy and everything. Take some of that taffy and as I mentioned, I microwave this. Be careful when you're microwaving it because it gets thermonuclear hot and if it gets stuck to your skin, it will give you like 3rd degree burns. So just give it a little bit at a time. I think about 10 seconds is perfect. You'll see there mine's quite sticky. So as we bring that out, might have even been a touch long. I think I did mine for 15 seconds. So you can pull out that piece of taffy. That's actually going to start to firm up anyway. So I'm just going to pull off just a little piece of that and I'm going to roll it into a ball, really nice and pliable when it's a little bit warm. And I'm just going to flatten it out with my finger into a little green disc. Taking your eye candy melt and one of those cocktail sticks, just use a little bit of that green melted chocolate and right smack bang in the middle you want to put a little dob and press down that. It's going to be the greens of Mike's eyes. All right, so we've got the little green of his eye. Now I'm going to take a lollipop stick rather than a toothpick just because it's a little bit wider and flatter. And I'm just going to use that to dip into that dark chocolate and daub on just a center of an eye. And I only use it because the toothpick can be a little bit too defined and it can take a little bit long to do this, but by all means, use a toothpick or the back of a paintbrush or anything like that. So there you've got Mike's eye, his horns, his mouth, and his little hat. All right, so take your taffy. You just want to open that up, and what you want to do is sort of roll it between your hands. You want to roll it until it comes out nice and long, and then we're going to cut it in half. So one piece of taffy is going to be 2 arms, and one piece of taffy is going to be 2 legs for this size taffy. So I'm using a natural confectionery company. I think it's a sour fruit chew because they were a nice green taffy, but it's going to depend on what brand of taffy you're using. All right, so you can see there I've got a nice long sort of a sausage. Make sure it's as even as you can get it. I'm going to make it a little bit thinner for the arms. I'm going to take my knife and just cut it directly in the middle. So you want to just give your ends a pinch, and that's just going to make like a little shoulder almost. Do that on both sides. Everything you do here, do it together so that nothing sort of hardens, and so that you make sure that you're doing every step. Taking the hand, or what's going to be the hand, just flatten it out and then just pinch in a little bit and kind of turn it just to give him a little bit of a wrist. And again with this one, so down the flat end, pinch it out and a little bit of a wrist. Taking your knife, you just want to cut in a couple of fingers for him there. And you don't have to be too picky about these. It's a wow cake pop anyways. See that little monster hand? And again with this one. Beautiful. Now here I'm really just pinching the tops, and that's just to make them not look so square, but I'm not putting too much time into it. Beautiful. 2 little monster arms. Now time to make our monster legs. Opening up that last piece of taffy. And once again we're just going to roll it out into another sausage. If you were looking at selling these at a market or selling them in a business, you'd want to make sure that you are charging accordingly because they're not the easiest cake pop. All right, so you're going to take that one, once again, cut it in half, and we're going to just pinch a little flat bit, and that's just going to stick to the bottom of our wet cake pop ball. So on the other side, little flat bit, and then we're just going to pinch down the bottom. As you're pinching the bottom, you kind of want to pull it out a little bit. So you're sort of pulling it out to give him a bit of a foot shape. Lovely. Pinch it, flatten it, and pull it. Now you want to cut some little toes in there. And just pinch them off. All right, so we've done the basics, all of the decorations. Now it's time to dip and get decorating. So we're ready to dip and decorate. Now, I will mention that I have literally just gotten this back out of the microwave. So you want to make sure that your candy melts or your melted chocolate is as fluid as it can possibly be. Take your cake pop ball and you want to dip your lollipop stick into those candy melts or that chocolate and just slide it into the bottom of the cake pop ball. That one's going to go off into the refrigerator. We're going to leave it there for about 5 minutes until it has completely set and that seal is completely set. Our ball's nice and firm, and then we'll be back to finish him off. All right, so we're back to the fridge, and I'm really happy that chocolate seal is really, really nice and firmly set. My cake pop ball is nice and firm, and we're ready to dip. So you want to take your candy melts or your melted chocolate and just dip that ball in there. Just tilt it from side to side. Don't be too rough with it because it is quite a large cake pop ball and we really don't want to knock it off. So pulling it out of those candy melts, just give it a couple of little taps. Nice, gentle little taps, just tapping your wrist, not the actual cake pop ball itself. But don't spend too much time on this getting it perfect. All right, now from here you want to work quite quickly. So take your eye, pop it straight on, front row, just top of the center, and your mouth, pop that in underneath. Now you want to take those two arms and you want to stick those in almost into the cake pop ball a little bit. Don't worry if they stick out a little bit and they look a bit odd, because they are going to relax down and they will end up hanging by his side, as you can see there in my demo. You just want to work as quickly as you can here. Taking your little hat, you want to pop the large M&M, and then the smaller M&M, you just want to push it in a little bit further. So it looks like the little cap there. Taking those horns and just slide them in, 1 and 2. Now the last thing that you want to put on is going to be the legs, because you can actually just use some more melted candy melts and attach those. So we'll take the legs, and if you do find that it started to dry a little bit too much, that's fine for me. But if you find it started to dry a little bit too much, you can just put a little blob of those green candy melts underneath. Now I'm actually going to support that leg because it is still quite wet under there. So you can see there I'm supporting it with this finger, and then I'm going to grab this other leg. Now you want to hold those in place just until you're confident they're not going to go anywhere, because they've probably got the least support out of anything. So we're just going to hold that for a few minutes, and then I'll show you how to reposition his little arms and legs to your liking. I have tried making him wave and moving his little legs around, but with the taffy, it does always seem to go back to that sort of hanging position. So as much as he looks cool for about 5 minutes, and you can kind of position him like a little doll into all sorts of different poses and directions, he kind of ends up just hanging loose there. All right, so once he's pretty well dry, you can then just move his little arms and legs down to straight beside him, and there you've got your gorgeous little Mike Wazowski Monsters Inc. or Monsters University cake pop, ready to go for your little monster. I really hope that you've enjoyed watching this tutorial. Don't forget to head over and check out our channel, My Cupcake Addiction. And as always, thanks very much for watching.